Hey, welcome back. We're going to try to knock out chapter 18 here real quick. Really, chapter 18 deals with industrialization and urbanization a little bit. And we'll just knock this out real quick. So here we go. So really, what we're looking at, if you're going to look at an event that's going to start the modern times, it's going to be the 1892 World's Fair in Chicago. This is really the introduction of America into the modern world. It's going to signify the coming of age, let's say, of America after the Civil War and after westward expansion. And then it's going to showcase the newfound industrial capabilities of the United States. So let's go there. You're going to see a huge growth in industrial workers. You're going to see the urban population double. Cities are going to grow. New York's going to hit over 1 million people. Chicago is going to hit over 1 million people. The industrial cities like Boston, New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, those types of places are going to begin to grow. Pittsburgh, Minnesota. Those types of cities are going to grow in population, and they're going to be a destination for people to move out of rural areas or for immigrants to move to. A lot of this is going to be because of inventions, where this is going to be the age of inventions. You're going to see the typewriter come about, cash registers, adding machines, which are the predecessors to calculators, vacuum cleaners, flush toilets, tin cans, frozen foods. Which those last two don't sound like a big deal, like tin cans and frozen foods. You're like, yeah, big whoop. But it's going to be such a convenience to people that find themselves working 10, 12-hour days in factories and then have the ability to come home and have a ready-made food or a quickly available food instead of making everything from scratch, which is going to be very important to individuals. Steel is going to be really what's going to kickstart this. We had iron before, but obviously steel is much stronger than iron, and it allows for taller buildings to be made, stronger railroad tracks, those types of things. Okay, harder, more durable. Bell's going to invent the telephone. That's going to increase communications. We're going to get away from the Morse code, the telegraph, and be into voice communications, which is important. Here's Albert Einstein, or not Einstein, Edison. This is Edison. Edison is one of these inventors that's he's just gonna invent everything or improve on inventions, and he planned to basically have a minor invention every 7 to 10 days. And a major invention, something that's going to change the world every month or so. And he was pretty close. He did a lot of things. The light bulb, he created the electric grid that allowed for the Washington, D.C. or for New York City to be lit up with direct current. And then that idea is improved on by Westinghouse, which allows for alternative current. People that are in electric classes can probably explain that a lot better than I can. Railroads are going to be insanely important because it's going to allow for transportation of goods. You're going to see people make tons of money, like Jay Gould and Vanderbilt are going to come into wealth. These people are going to be seen as either robber barons, like they're taking advantage of people, or just captains of industry. Excuse me. In which they they're just smarter and better than everybody else, and like they're gonna have unheard of wealth, like $100 million in the turn of the century, and they're gonna go on and found universities and become in major cities like Nashville. Vanderbilt is synonymous with Nashville in lots of ways. Carnegie. Carnegie Steel is going to be a rags to riches story. Carnegie comes to the United States as an immigrant from Scotland, kind of works his way up the ranks, ends up buying a steel company and just focuses on making steel, how to make better, cheaper steel. this is the idea of horizontal integration, in which all he does is make steel, right? And eventually he'll move into vertical integration where he makes lots of different things. But Carnegie is interesting because he wants to give away his wealth. He believes like, too much wealth is a burden, but he doesn't want to give it away to individuals. So he starts things like the Carnegie library system, in which he builds public libraries for people to educate themselves. He gives a lot of money to public buildings for performances, like Carnegie Hall in New York is part of his legacy. So you have that. You have excuse me, it's Monday morning, I'm tired. You have Rockefeller here, who's going to transfigure the oil industry. He's going to run Standard Oil, and he's going to be the poster child for vertical integration, which is where you take all aspects of a product, from raw materials to finished good, to the marketplace. And he's going to run oil drills, oil welling, transportation of that oil from the fields to refineries, and then finally the sales at Standard Oil stations. And he's going to make tons of money as well. New types of business that are going to pop up. You're going to see corporations begin to develop during this time, where companies will sell small portions of themselves to consumers. So stocks. Trusts are going to be developed where small groups of people can control the actions of companies that work all in the same industry. So basically, one company is going to control, or one group of people is going to control all of the steel making in America, or all of the oil production. And Congress is going to rule that illegal and work to prevent that. You're going to see holding companies, which are a little bit more advanced type of trust, in which one company actually will buy up other companies, and they'll own their stocks, kind of like I don't know. I can't think. Like Pepsi, the company that owns Pepsi that I can't think of right now. Yum Brands. Okay, so Yum Brands owns owns Pepsi. I believe they own Kentucky Fried Chicken, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell. And so like they own lots of different companies that operate on their own, but they're all part of one parent company. Conglomerate was the word I was looking for, I think. You're going to see banking pop up here. JP Morgan is an investment banker. And he's going to make a ton of money loaning money out, buying businesses, just banking in general. He's going to buy Carnegie Steel for $500 million, which is a ton of money back in the day, to form U.S. Steel, which is going to be the largest steel company in America. In 1912, he's estimated to have a wealth of $22 billion, which is more than the value of all the lands west of the Mississippi River, which is crazy. He's so wealthy, he actually bails out the United States. At one point, the United States government is going to be bankrupt, and he bails out the United States government through loans, which is crazy. All right, urbanization. 1860, 60% of people live on farms. By 1900, those same 60% now live in cities. And so the birth of cities are going to pop up. You see a colorized picture of a city, excuse me, during that time. Factory work is going to be the main draw to cities. People are going to move to cities for jobs, but also just for excitement. Obviously, you're working 60 hours a week. Let's say you work 10 hours a day, 60 hours a week. You still have a decent amount of time to get out and see the town a couple hours a day, or on the weekend, or on your 7 day, your day off, go to places like Coney Island and whatnot if you live in New York. And so while the work isn't very lucrative, you don't make a ton of money. I mean, 20%, 1 out of 5 are going to live below the poverty line. It does allow for more adventure, especially for younger women are going to move. Younger single women are going to move to the city, looking for a little bit more excitement, I guess. Let's see. You see this idea of scientific management come in which we have new studies trying to figure out how to best utilize this new workforce, how we can work people to their maximum potential. Um, we like the idea, factory owners like the idea of employing children and women because they felt like they were more trainable than men. Also, you could pay them less. The book does a pretty decent job talking about that. You have labor unions. The big three we're going to talk about, though, are the National Labor Union, the Knights of Labor, and the American Federation of Labor. You can kind of see how these work different. The National Labor Union is going to exclude like Chinese people, but they are going to welcome men and women and people of African American races in, and they're going to look for an 8-hour workday. As they start to lose importance, you start to see the Knights of Labor pick up, and that's going to try to incorporate everybody that gets paid. Every wage laborer can come and join the Knights of Labor, and that falls apart. And eventually, you're going to have the American Federation of Labor, which is only going to focus on skilled labor. So people that have a marketable trade, and they're not going to be active in politics. They're going to work for improved working conditions. What's going to cause labor unions to fail? Well, you're going to see a lot of labor unions fail after typically like social unrest. You're going to have the Haymarket riot in Chicago, in which you have a labor union that gets together and protest of poor wages at a reaper factory. They were making tools for the harvest. And some anarchists show up and they throw some hand grenades in, and it kills a couple of police officers, and there's a big melee, and the public falls away from that. Pullman was a company that made sleeping cars for trains, so very important, and that they actually created a town, a company town, Pullman, Illinois, outside of Chicago, where everything was made. Well, Pullman owns all the houses, so he rents them to his employees. He runs all the stores. He sells goods to the employees. So basically, he's making money off of every transaction these employees make. Well, there's a strike, and it kind of turns a little violent when when the employees realize that the employees want a raise, and Pullman's like, no, but Pullman's still paying dividends to his shareholders. So the company's still making money. The employees go on strike. The government steps in and basically, hold on, let me go back. I'm sorry. The employees go on strike. The railroad workers join the strike to support the Pullman workers, the Pullman car builders. And the government steps in and basically makes it a crime to not service a rail car that has a U.S. mail, passenger mail, or domestic mail cart on it. And so they would put a mail cart on each of the trains. That would require people to basically make sure that these trains are moving up and down the railroad tracks. When the railroad union won't budge, the American government sends in the army to basically work the railroads, and so they break that strike. The Homestead strike was at a Carnegie steel factory. Basically, it turns bad when the Carnegie's I'm sorry, I'm all over the place this morning. When Carnegie's business partner, his last name was Koch, tries to lock workers out of the Homestead plant, the workers get guns and basically they fortify themselves within the plant. There's a private security force that's called in, and there's a gunfight, and the workers and their union is destroyed, and so there's problems for good and bad with unions, and the book does a pretty decent job talking about that. Consumer goods, one of the big things that's going to come about during this time is the fact that we're going to start to sell people stuff because if we're making stuff in factories. So like, you see the ad over there on the right where the two ladies are working themselves to death, washing the clothes of the family. And then they look over there on the right and they see, I guess this is an ad for soap. So it's a cold water soap. So instead of this hot, steamy, horrible water that they have to wash in, you buy this soap, and your dreams will come true. Things will be a lot easier. And so advertising becomes necessary. Mail order catalogs allow shipments of goods along the railroads out to the west, and so industry becomes really, really important there. All right, so hopefully that helps a little bit with what's going on with chapter 18. You have any questions, shoot me an email or drop me a line in the inbox, and I'll get back with you. We'll see you guys a little bit later for chapter 19. Deuces.